Hello and welcome to the Example Podcast, where we bring you conversations with mature, modern, masculine men in an attempt to share their knowledge, wisdom and experience for you to learn from. Come as you are, take what you need, and remember, you are the captain of your ship. This week, I sat down with former Pararescueman Mike Brown. In Mike's military career, he had the responsibility of entering dangerous zones while others were all retreating in order to rescue civilians, allies and other service members. To become a pararescueman, you have to complete 7 of the longest and most difficult training schools in the U.S. military. And as you can imagine, less than a handful of people even complete their education. Serving as a pararescueman is one of the most elite and most respected roles in military special operations. It represents an identity of lifelong sacrifice, leadership, and the ability to perform when lives are hanging in the balance. But when that career is over, what happens to one's identity? In this episode, Mike reveals the reality of returning to civilian life and how it made him feel like he was holding a huge beach ball underwater, with his ego demanding he behave as one person and the reality of the real Mike Brown underneath the mask. Financial success, physical prowess and genuine war hero stories made it easier to keep up appearances, but internally there was a battle that was raging on. As it all became too much, eventually Mike found Ibogaine and DMT treatment, or you could even say that it found him when he was listening to a podcast on his way home. What followed next is an indescribable experience that literally tore Mike all the way back to the foundation. You can only understand it through his explanation as someone that's been through it. I would do it absolutely no justice. Please listen. This is an incredible, impactful story about how a man touched the roots of hell and is now growing towards heaven. Share this with anyone who's really going through it. Thank you guys, enjoy. Mike, we made it. Despite me forgetting the table, coming in through the thunderstorm, we're here. How you feeling?
Excellent.
Excellent. I'll start off, mate, the same way I do every time. And what does it mean to you to be a great man?
So, I knew you were going to ask this, and I resort to kind of a quote that I have heard quite a bit, and it's, argue not what a great man is, be one. And so, because I feel like if you define what a great man is, if you put tangible traits to it, it all of a sudden becomes like a law degree. You just got to go check the box and you can be a great man, or so I don't think it is a certain set of character traits that make a great man. I think it is a man that is whole, a man that understands that he is bad and good and accepts it and is not naive that nothing is bad about him. And I think it's more of it's a path that one can be on or they cannot be on it. And I think when you look at somebody and you can just tell before they even talk, or they can just be on the other side of the room, they have an energy that's like they're on the path, they're a good man. I don't even have to talk to them, I don't have to know about their background. You know that they live a life of seeking self-mastery and and have self-discipline and very self-aware of the whole person that they're presenting to the world. And there's not a mask. So, I hope that answers it. I don't think there's a certain set of qualities that make a good man. I think it's a whole man is what a great man is.
We'll talk about where you came up with that answer, discovered that answer, obviously, throughout the podcast. I heard a lot of self-awareness there, self-responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that idea of it's a path that you're on and it's not, I never do anything bad. It's accepting the whole man as he's travelling through this journey together.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you grow up, Mike?
In Winterset, Iowa.
Winterset, I've been telling people it's Pelham. I'm sorry, are those rivals?
No.
Not
No, I mean, yeah, they're same size town, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was it like, mate? What were you into? Who were your male role models?
Yeah.
At that time?
Well, Winterset is famous for the birthplace of John Wayne. So John Wayne was a role model just in the sense that he was from my hometown, but I did like his movies and stuff like that, and joked about John Wayne antics. All the kids from Winterset kind of have a John Wayne chip on their shoulder.
Okay.
But no, my dad, I think, was my number one male role model. My childhood was phenomenal. I mean, there's no one thing that happened that I could claim victimhood on. I mean, everything was just good. Like, we weren't poor, we weren't rich, the town we were in was safe, the schools were great, the coaches were great, the friends were great, there was no crime, life was just no complaints. And I mean, there's just nothing in my childhood that really sticks out as life-changing or something that happened to me early. Nothing like that. It was just very loving. My mom was a teacher. My dad was a businessman in town, and I had two older sisters. And my role models, like I said, were my dad. And I had some coaches, I think, throughout there. More in the high school than younger. And then I had some role models further on when in my military career. But growing up, it was like The Sandlot, the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's perfect.
And then early on, obviously, when you're that age, you're probably not so much aware of it. But I know we spoke when we met last week, like, where did you start to, or now looking back, you recognise that maybe some of your value came from some of your performances as an athlete. Is that fair to say, mate?
Explain what you're...
So Mike's great because he's a great football player. Or Mike's great because he's great as an athlete. Is that part of your childhood that you felt, or makes sense looking back?
Yeah, I mean, sports were definitely my anchor as a child, as a teen, or through my middle school and high school years. I was good at them. I think maybe I put more expectation on my performance than I was probably capable of. And when that didn't come to fruition, where I didn't go play D1 football or whatever, I may have, looking back on it, I think I kind of set myself up for, well, you got to prove yourself some way, shape, or form. Because all these years you thought, you're going to go play at Notre Dame or go play at Iowa, or, and clearly I didn't. But, so I think I may have set some expectations that didn't come to fruition. But like all things, I think everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And obviously, it led me down a different path. So.
And where was that path, Mike? So Division I football didn't work out?
Yeah. I went to the University of Iowa. And because I wasn't in sports, and I'm in Iowa City, which is a fun town, my parents, my dad especially, kind of mandated that I get involved in something, whether it was on the rowing team or whether it was, the weightlifting club, or it didn't matter, the chess club, something to be involved in other than just aloof in Iowa City. And we visited, when we went there on a college visit, we walked through the ROTC building and spoke to some folks there. And my dad's not military, my family's not military. it was just kind of, oh, that looks good, and they pay for school. All right, let's see what this looks like. And so then I enrolled into ROTC at the University of Iowa in the Air Force ROTC, and continued that my 4 years through college. It was a great experience. It led me on to my military career, which wasn't as an officer though. That's what ROTC stands for, Reserve Officer Training Corps. So when you graduate, you get commissioned as an officer in the Air Force. A lot of my buddies, most of them went to pilot school. I didn't really want to do pilot school because it's a 12-year, 8 to 12-year commitment after school. I was still kind of like, I don't know, I'm just doing this, get my school paid for.
Yeah.
And when it was time for me to kind of pick my job in the Air Force as a commissioned officer, my options were to be a military police or a maintenance officer. Neither one of those really did it for me. Just wasn't, it really kind of, And then the other option was to pay back all my tuition, and I didn't really like that option.
That sounds like a good idea.
And the third option was I could enlist and do whatever I wanted to do. And so I thought about it for a couple weeks, and I came back and I said, I want to enlist and give me the toughest thing you got. I don't even know what it is. Just I want the toughest thing you got.
Why did you say that?
I think it was, going back to our first question, or kind of the foreseen failure that I put on myself. I mean, I wasn't a failure as an athlete, but I think I thought that I didn't live up to my own expectations of being a D1 football player and, performing at the level that I wanted to, and I felt like I had some stuff to prove to my hometown and to prove to my parents and prove to my friends, and that I could take on a challenge and complete it.
And you did.
And I did.
Very well.
Well, it was tough.
Yeah.
But it was, yeah.
From there, how long was your military career, mate? And as you said, you did go and do the toughest thing and go and complete the toughest thing. How long were you then serving?
So when I had graduated college, immediately went to, it was a 6-year enlistment. Immediately went to basic training for the second time. And then I went straight to pararescue. Indoctrination, they call it selection now, but it was called indoctrination when I went through. And you go through a series of schools, the first one being, your selection course, where they weed out everybody. It's 12 weeks of misery. And then you go to combat dive school down in Key West, Florida. Another very, very challenging, extremely challenging school. And then the list just goes on, these different schools I went to, airborne and survival, free fall.
How did you keep going, mate, when so many people were dropping off?
During the indoc portion of it, which is when you lose most of your guys, I think we started with a little over 100 folks in our class, and we had graduated. It was either 18 or 13. I think it was 18, and then 13 of us then finished the pipeline. I think that's what it was. There's guys dropping left and right every day. And you just kind of, it was all mindset. Looking back on it, I probably could put a lot of fancy words as to what it was. At the time, I had no idea, the psychology of what I was doing, but I just told myself, just make it to lunch. Just get to lunch. Just get to dinner. Just get to bed. Get to breakfast. And then do it again. Get to lunch. get to breakfast, get to dinner, just meal by meal by meal. It was if I got to the next meal, then I won, and you just had to break it down that small. You didn't think about I got 12 weeks left, or I got 6 weeks left, or I got however many left, or I got. It was you literally just focused on the next 4 hours, or whatever it was, and at the beginning, a lot of people quit right away in the first 2 weeks, and those people were never going to make it anyway. And it almost gives you a little bit of fuel, a little bit of, they're quitting, I'm not. So it gives you a little motivation. As the weeks progress and fewer people tap out, the ones that do, a lot of the times you're like, whoa, that guy tapped out? Oh boy. And so it hits a little bit harder, and it makes you, take a walk through your brain and see if you got it. A lot of sleepless nights, dreading what was to come the next day. But it was all just I think and we'll talk about quotes to live by at the end, but I know that the very first thing they teach you there is never quit. And you touch this sign on the door. Every time you walk through the door, you got to hit this sign. It says never quit. And that's the PJ motto, is never quit. And I think that essentially got me through NDOC, was just doing it and having a never quit attitude, and then doing a personal inventory of, you're here, you made it this far, just keep going. And I didn't, and another thing that helped me was I had zero ties back home. I didn't have a girlfriend. I didn't have, some guys cross train into pararescue, so they've been in the military a few years and they'll cross train, so they may have wives and kids. I didn't have children. I didn't have a girlfriend. I didn't have a wife. I didn't, my parents were my parents, but I was able to completely cut all noise out of my life and just focus on what was at hand. And that helped a lot.
How old were you when you finished all that training, mate? How old were you when you... Because then you deployed, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would have been, let's see here, 24, 25?
24, 25.
Yeah. No. I would have been 20, 24. Probably 24 years old. Yeah.
And then in as far as, so people know, like, you've gone into the military, you've gone, I want to do the hardest thing. And naturally, you complete the hardest thing, it makes sense that you'd be sent to go and do the hardest missions.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. You don't have to get into too many details. I watched that Waves and War last night, and some of the scenarios that they talk through there, it sounds like a movie, right? Is that something that you can relate to, mate? Like, it's just, you don't have to describe it. It's like, as a movie. Like, I'm in a fucking movie right now.
Yeah, very much so. I think, so when I got out and finally put my beret on and got to my team, I think I deployed within 3 months of getting to my team, to Afghanistan. So that would have been in 06, kind of in the, and this is right, like literally 2 months after Marcus Luttrell and the lone survivor situation happened. So in the exact same area. So Afghanistan was kind of a hotbed at the time. I don't think I felt like I was in a movie. I think I felt like in flow. You're in the flow state. You know, it's like an athlete. I think, I don't know. I'm not a professional athlete, never was, but I mean, when they talk about flow state, and you're just kind of so hyper focused on the task at hand and what's going on that you don't. Not until I got home was I able really to reflect on it, if that makes sense. When I was there, I was just there. I mean, when people ask me, yeah, I can tell stories of, missions and stuff, but it's more of, how did I feel at the time? I felt normal. I mean, I felt in flow. Yeah, I mean, I was, and that's the thing about some of the stuff I did. Well, in any special operations, they're all the same. But the things that you do, whether it's doing a military free fall jump or doing a combat dive or climbing the face of a mountain, whatever, it forces you to focus so much on the task at hand. You can't think of anything else. So your brain just shuts off, and the only thing I'm thinking about is I'm arching. I'm going to pull my chute at 4,000 feet. Okay, and make sure the guys are out of the way. That's just bang, 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 everything you do. Or, when we go pick a guy up, I'm the lead medic. I'm thinking, ABC, airway, breathing, circulation. I'm just going through my steps of, what it is, and you just kind of, and that's what the military's good at, is they train you to fall back on this checklist. I think mental checklist kind of performance, or same with shooting. Your firefight, you got to jam, tap, rack, bang, and it's just these things that come second nature to you, and you're not thinking about it at the time. Like when I got home stateside, I could sit by the pool and have a beer and think about it. I would probably, put all this together. But while you're there, you're just doing. You're just working.
And how was it when you returned home, mate?
At first, it was good. I mean, again, I think nothing really. The first deployment was. Nothing was really alarming, like, oh, you saw all this stuff. You're going to be messed up for years after this. And, like, none of that happened. It was actually more of, when do I get to go again?
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm ready. In the ops tempo, a lot of guys from my era, I wouldn't say suffered, but experienced an ops tempo that's never been replicated or any time in military history. I mean,
and by ops tempo, you mean the amount of times you've been deployed, the amount of missions you've done when you're out there.
Yes, and then when you're stateside, the amount of pressure to get ready to go for. I mean, so even though you're stateside, we're conducting training at a very, very high tempo.
Right.
And you're not really slowing down. And in fact, some of the preparation work that you do before you go on deployment is far more dangerous than the actual deployment stuff, because you think of worst case scenario. Okay, so let's jump out a little bit higher and a little bit darker at night into a drop zone that hasn't been surveyed before, and let's you put all the what ifs into the equation, and you practice that. And then when you're out at war, a lot of those what ifs don't come to fruition, and you just fall back on the basic, well, we're just going to go in, insert, get this guy, extract, and go home. And so, needless to say, the ops tempo, it was high energy, does not describe it. It's the adrenaline that your body goes through for years on end I mean, one week you're doing 40 free fall jumps, just in the week, just to get them, just to practice. And then the next week you're climbing on, you're doing rock climbing missions and ropes and high angle rescue. Then the next week you're off the coast of San Diego doing dive missions, doing ship seizures or whatever you have to do. And this is all stateside, you're prepping and you're doing this stuff. The next week you're going to a shooting school where you're learning close quarter battle or how to shoot and how to, and so it's just this constant cool guy stuff. I mean, it's real cool. It's real fun. A lot of adrenaline and no real decompression time. And so it was in being single and, no kids or anything at the time. I was just eating it up and just kept go. And that did that for pretty much my whole career.
When did the cost of all of that start to show up?
It wasn't until I moved back to Iowa and got married and had kids. It was something about having that first child that really something in me changed. Like,
so how many years after is this now? So once you finished?
It had been only 4 years.
So it was kind of still felt kind of normal, kind of like, yeah, this is just what I've done. And then 4 years, the first little one comes along.
Well, and that 4 year gap between leaving, separating and having kids. My wife would attest to the same thing. I was still a PJ mentally. Like, I was still, even though I was back in Iowa trying to run a CrossFit gym or whatever I was doing, but mentally I was still there. Like, I think I wanted to go back even.
Yeah.
And that's when, and I was so used to this high adrenaline, high dopamine hit kind of, I mean, on a level it's beyond drugs almost, and I was just so used to that. And as soon as you kind of get domesticated a little bit, I suppose is the word, that part of it goes away. You're like, oh, this doesn't feel right. Something's wrong here. And so you do things to supplement that adrenaline. And so there's a lot of poor choices I made in that time. And drank real heavy. But then when Zoe was born, then let me back up. I think in the back of my mind, I was like, is there a chance I could go back? Or there may be, I'm still young enough, but once we had the first kid and we bought the house and everything, I was like, okay, I'm here forever.
Right.
I'm really out now. I'm really
right.
Domesticated. But something about it, it's just something about being a parent, something about the human, like, I don't want to get too far into this, but as an operator, you become desensitized to a lot of things, and especially as a combat medic, combat search and rescue, where you're dealing with a lot of medical things and blood and surgeries and all kinds of stuff, trauma, you get real desensitized to trauma or to human life, basically. It's more of just work. But when you have a child and that child's like, laying on your chest and looking at you, and just weird things kind of shift emotionally, like you have this new sense of appreciation for human life, including your own or my own. Prior to that, I really didn't care. Like, you kind of, you do this that others may live, and so you're willing to sacrifice yourself at any cost. But as soon as you have a kid, things kind of change. Your mindset changes. And so when that happened, I think a lot of my former emotions and such kind of got turned upside down once we had the kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did that affect you on a day-to-day basis, mate? Was it almost like a opening of a Pandora's box type feeling, or?
Yeah, I jumped in with both feet on being dad, right? I loved, because it was kind of like the closest thing I could get back to it is like, oh, I get to operate, or I get to work on this kid, I get to play with it, I get to feed it, I get to change its diaper, like I get to do all this stuff. That was the mission, right? Is to be dad. And but that only takes so many hours of the day, and I worked out a lot. That helped kind of stabilize some of my emotions, but I jumped into the bottle heavy. I was a big drinker, drank a lot. And that's when, right out of the military, is when they, to back up a little bit, like the VA, you come home and you go through and you see all the doctors and you tell them all the horror stories, and they give you a whole bunch of prescriptions, and so that's when they had started me on SSRIs and Adderall, and I was on painkillers for all the injuries that I had, and so I was a pill popper from day one when I got out, and it was, and you throw the bottle into it. I was, my time bomb was growing. It was growing. Like, it didn't start ticking until later on, but it started to grow. Like, I was like, all the fuel that needs to be in this grenade is going in there. These pills, the booze, just the poor choices. And I was just, and Kelly, even then, she said it multiple times in that whole process, or that whole time between then and Ibogaine, what are you hiding from?
She said that to you,
yeah.
Kelly's your wife?
Yeah. She'd, like, I'd drink a bottle of scotch, and the next day she'd just be like, what are you running from? Like, she wouldn't get mad at me, like, upset, because she was very understanding, but she's just like, what are you trying to numb? What's going on? Like, there's something there. And I would, no, there's not. I'm just trying to, when in reality there was, and we'll get into what that is later, but yeah, I was always altering my state of mind, because I didn't want to be, because I was so used to operating at such a high tempo and being this calm, not calm, but this domesticated, was so uncomfortable at that time that I just wanted to change my state.
Yeah, like escape from the status quo. And then, did you try anything before Ibogaine, or did it just keep crescendoing up to the point where it's like, I have to go and do this thing?
So the years pass. We had a second kid, Jackson. Had a job change, which that helped. I got into medical sales. So I had a CrossFit gym. I sold that. Then I got into medical sales, which was very thrilling. High commission. Not high commission, but a high dopamine hit. When you make a big sale.
Yeah.
It was very more in line with kind of this feels good. But again, this is all external validation, external gratification that I thought was the answer. I thought that was what humans do, is the world rewards, you by giving you these bits of oh, yeah, these dopamine hits, the big sale, the big, the big lift, the big, whatever.
Yeah.
You're chasing. Got into hunting a lot, always trying to shoot the biggest deer to put on the wall. I mean, so I kept looking for the next thing, and still hitting the bottle really hard, and hiding it more. Like now that I had kids, I had to hide it more, and I knew it was a problem, and I mean, I can freely say I'm an alcoholic. If I started drinking again, I would not be good. Or I'm an addict of whatever kind you want to call it. But again, I was just using different things to fill a void that I had no idea was there, and it was just self-destructive. And that just continued on. More pills, more more Adderall, more Vicodin, just keep going. And then we had the second kid. Switched jobs again to be a state farm agent, which I am now. Great job. It provided, what we needed. I wasn't on the road all the time traveling. It didn't have the sale, the big thrill of the sale aspect. Insurance is pretty boring. So that has always been gone. But you kind of do other things to fill your day. Got really into fitness a lot. Over those years. And I would still go parachute on the weekends, and do what you need to do, here and there, and participate. Go scuba diving when we travel. Go mountain climbing when you could, or long hikes and stuff. But it again, it was still like this. I didn't have a mission anymore, right? I think that was the biggest revelation. Is I kind of lost having a mission, and for a while there, it would straighten up a little bit, because my mission is being dad, and it still is. And that, and being a husband, but yeah.
So the dad and the husband thing wasn't quite enough.
No, it didn't. Well, it wasn't enough of what I was used to. Like I what I'm getting at is like the military and everything leading up to Ibogaine, like everything was external. I needed to be validated on who I was as a person. Like, hey, I'm this former badass, I'm this former PJ, I can still jump, I can still do all these things, I have all these tools in my bag that nobody knows about, and it was an external validation, or I needed to be seen as this business owner, this good state farm agent, this good medical sales guy, has a high income. I needed to be seen as, I'm a good coach to my kids. I'm, everything. I kept seeking validation from the external world, and because I had built this identity of who I was, or this identity, was formed, whether I meant to build it or not, but I did. And it takes a lot of work to maintain an identity, because every choice you make will be made in preservation of that identity. So just yeah, it's kind of like holding a. We all have a persona or mask that we you have to, but we all have this persona, this identity that we wear, and it starts very young, and mine got built through this extraordinary career in the military that added to the volume of the person that I was, the identity that I had or I carried. It's like a beach ball. Like the more things that you do, you inflate it, you inflate it, you inflate it, you inflate it, and this beach ball gets big. But the goal is you don't want anybody to know that you have an identity, so you're pushing it underwater. You know how hard it is to hold a beach ball underwater all the time? Like, that's what all of us, I think, do to a certain degree, is we have this identity of who we are, and we're too scared to let it surface, so we put all of our energy into maintaining, keeping this thing underwater. And eventually that, nobody can hold that forever. Nobody can. And that's when you just snap and things break, right? And so yeah, I was very much an inauthentic person. And we'll get into authenticity because that was kind of my big thing with Ibogaine. But looking back on it, I was very much a person who projected my worth to the world. I projected my there was nothing I didn't want anybody to dislike what they saw. Like, there's no way you can not like what you see here, right? I've done all these things. I'm a good parent. I'm a good husband. I'm I have a 6-figure job. I have a degree. I have, all this stuff that the society says are good things. And so I checked all those boxes, and I kept presenting myself to the world as like, see me, everybody see me. And later on, recently, you figure out, like, that's all false. It's fake.
So was the gap between how you want the world to see you and how you felt about yourself, is that just growing and growing?
Yeah, absolutely. There's another quote I live by or follow a lot is, there's the self you pretend you are and the self that you actually are. And examining the gap between the two is where self-knowledge lives. And so, yeah, you said it correctly. Very much so, like this gap of the most authentic person, Mike, that is available, to this built-up figure of what I idealized as a good person, or my perception of what everybody should like. It was growing big. The divide was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're getting further away from. You're drifting further away from shore, right? Per se, and eventually I drifted so far I'm just out in the middle of the sea and not with no shoreline to show me which way was north, and so. Yeah, without getting too far into it, I'm sure we will. But
yeah, is that how it felt then, mate? Before you was like, right, I've heard of. How did you find out about the Ibogaine?
So
was that like, yeah, this is something that was it immediately you were like, yeah, this is something I need to do, or was there a bit of like hesitation and not sure?
So it's short story here. In COVID hit. And that's when I really started drinking again, a lot, and I was hiding it a lot. And then shortly after COVID, I was like, I can't be doing this. I got kids. I'm driving around. I can't be drinking like I am. So then I switched over to marijuana, smoked a lot of weed, and pretty much quit drinking. But I smoked a lot of weed for since COVID basically, and it got to the point. It wasn't not right away, but it eventually built to the point where I would wake up at 4 a.m. I'd smoke, and I would smoke all day,
right,
until I went to bed at 9 at night, and I would just do it the next day.
So you didn't have to inhabit that gap at all.
Yeah, and very much, and I had a couple injuries in there. Tore my Achilles, which kind of set me off, and then I didn't want to take the hydrocodone that they prescribed for that, and so I thought I could smoke my way through the pain. And so I think that was really when I switched from a casual smoker to a full-time smoker, or ingester or whatever, gummies or whatever.
Yeah.
And so then what was it? Oh, then shortly after that, I got really sick, like really medically sick, and it turned out to be cryptococcus, which is a very rare fungal infection. It was in my lungs, on my skin, and in my CNS, my central nervous system, and it really took me to the edge of like, I think I'm going to die. Like I was going back and forth to Mayo Clinic. Nobody could really figure out what was going on, and shortly before Ibogaine one of the other things that I started doing was ketamine, and it helped actually a little. But then I started abusing it again, and that got pretty sketch. So on what's fun or interesting though is how Ibogaine comes into the picture. Is I had no idea about it. I've never heard of it, never thought of it. A buddy of mine who would always send me these podcasts, and I'm not ironically, I'm on a podcast. I wasn't a podcast listener. And he'd keep sending these ones from Sean Ryan, and I'm like, who's Sean Ryan? And I don't care. And and it turns out Sean Ryan's a pretty big podcaster, but he's a former Navy SEAL. And so he'd always send me these ones, and he basically wanted just my opinion on whatever they were talking about, because of my experience. But as I'm driving one night to Mayo Clinic, or driving home from Mayo Clinic, he sends me one, and it's Sean Ryan's story about going down to Mexico to do psychedelics. And I get enthralled with this podcast, like I'm just all into it and listening, because he describes his story about like what he was going through and the operator syndrome, that that kind of the diagnosis that they're giving us. Very, very parallel to all the things I was dealing with. Just on the verge of I just had no agency. I had no mission. I had no purpose. I was numbing myself from life, and pills weren't working. It just was a never-ending. It was just a cycle of bad things. And then he goes and his life changes, and he's clean, free, and clear of all this stuff. And so I like pull over, at the rest stop, and like fill out my application to like go down to Mexico to do psychedelics.
Just right then and there.
Just right then and there.
Right, just let me find the same one he's gone to, and thanks.
Yeah. Well, it turns out it was through Vets, which is a nonprofit that helps pay for us to go down there. I told him I was a PJ or pararescue, and I sent them my DD-214, and so they verified it, and like 3 days later, they're just like, you're going down in a month.
Wow.
And so, it's that kicked off my first journey down to Mexico to do psychedelics.
And then how was it logistically, like leaving from here? So I definitely want to hear so much about the experience, and then we'll talk about time too as well. But like logistically, what did you fly from here to San Diego, and then what?
Yep, it's very, very white glove. phenomenal program. Ambio is the company that does it. You just fly to San Diego. You stay at you stay at the hotel if you want to, but you fly in and they come pick you up at the hotel at the Sheraton there in San Diego, and in a white Suburban, and then they drive you down to Tijuana and straight to the house. And once you get there to the house, you have a medical intake. You have an EKG. You meet with the doctors. They do blood work. They get an IV port set on you and all this. Well, actually not an IV port yet because you do the sweat lodge the first night. But it's, when people hear I went to another country to do psychedelics, I need to emphasize, like, it's not like you're in a tent doing psychedelics with a shaman. Mm-hmm. It's a full-blown, it's a house, but it's like a full-blown medical facility. There's nursing staff there. There's doctors there. There's paramedics there. There's housekeeping there. I mean, there's a chef, a world-class chef there. So it's very much a retreat. It's very relaxing. It's comfortable. You don't even feel like you're in Tijuana. Mm-hmm. I mean, and you don't really leave the house anyway. You're kind of, when you get there, you leave the house to do the sweat lodge, but then when you come back, you're kind of there for the next 4 days, just kind of in your pajamas.
Yeah.
And they bring in folks to do yoga and Tai Chi and breath work. You'll have these classes there at the house, but it's very much very comfortable facility. So, yeah.
The facility was comfortable.
Yeah.
And the journey on the Ibogaine?
The Ibogaine is not so comfortable.
Not so comfortable.
Is that where we want to go?
Let's go, mate.
Go there?
Let's go. Talk us through, like, is it common, because I know it's a route from West Africa, right?
Yeah.
That's been used in these like spiritual ceremonies and stuff like that, and it's known for its hallucinogenic effects. And then, how did you consume it? I watched that War on Ways that you showed me. So they're around the fire, and then they wrote the notes and put them in. Is that you went to the exact same place? Is that right?
Correct.
And then, how is it ingested? Is it like in a drink or?
It's a pill.
It's a pill.
Yep.
Okay.
It's from what I gather is so yes, it's from Gabon is the country where it's primarily found, in Gabon, Africa. Been used for centuries, and it's basically bark shavings, shavings of bark, and they do make us watch a documentary on the way they do it in Africa, and they basically eat like a spoonful of bark, is how they do it. But then there's a lot of other stuff that you don't really need, and so over the years, the Trevor, the guy that runs Ambio, was able to make a synthetic, chemically identical version of just the Ibogaine, not some of the other stuff that's in the root, right? So it's made in a facility in Canada, I think, and it comes in a powder form, and then they put it in a capsule, and so it's pure Ibogaine only. So yeah, and you ingest it. You ingest 4 pills based on your weight, and this is what they call macro dosing. So I mean, it's a wave of, you're getting as much as you possibly can in one shot here, and it takes a couple hours to set in. But yeah, so the ceremony itself, they prep you. You have some folks that are there as counselors. You're able to kind of talk about what you want to accomplish on the journey. And the first time, I really didn't know what I was getting into, so I kind of half-assed it. I didn't really put a lot of thought into my burn sheet and everything. And so I didn't put a lot of, at that point I was still medically kind of not there. I wasn't there. Like, I was just like a ghost. And I just wanted to take something to reset anything at that point. Like, I didn't care.
Just fucking do something.
Do something.
Yeah.
And before you go down there, you have to be off all medication of all kinds, and no drinking 7 days prior. So they want you to be clean of everything because that way the medicine will work well, which I didn't have a problem with. But I had just stopped Adderall, like the 7 days prior, and I was taking like 80 milligrams a day. And so once you get into the journey of the Ibogaine, you are laying in a bed, you're with your eye mask on, and they have some really, really bizarre, almost uncomfortable music to listen to. Very African, just weird instruments, and you can't even describe the music. But it basically just kind of sets in, and my whole journey lasted about 12 to 18 hours, and I basically purged the whole time. The first time I did Ibogaine, and when purging is throwing up, and I just sweat and purged. I had some what they call tracers. I saw those. Those were the only visions I saw, where it was like little lights that kind of shoot. But it was just I just laid there in misery for 18 hours, and you can't move. Your body's kind of shaking. You can't. If you have to go to the bathroom, they have to like lift you up. But you're there mentally, like like I'm in Mexico, I'm in Tijuana, I'm in the balcony, laying in this bed, and that's so and so right next to me. So it's not like you're in a different world, for like in a dream state. You're just in this miserable state for 18 hours, and during that, your brain is just doing things, and you start to you're just feeling something's going on in there. You can just feel like things are getting cleaned out almost. And so after the first 12 to 18 hours of being in there throwing up and just being miserable, you can go back to your room, and then they call it the gray day, and the next 12 to 18 hours you're just laying in bed, and this is when all the reflection comes in. So this is kind of where you get a chance to walk down the halls of your soul, and you really have to deal with everything that you went through, right? At least this was the first time. The second time it happened in a little bit different order. The first time, I was so miserable. I was just puking, and then kind of all the reflection state of it came those next few hours, the next day, where you really reflect on everything that happened. And I didn't have any visions the first time around, so there was no some guys are seeing some really cool stuff, and you're all excited, like, I get to see a bunch of cool stuff, right. And I didn't see a thing. But it's still like, I still had that reflection time for the next 12, 18 hours where you're just laying in bed, and you really make some connections about life and your identity, and your ego basically dies. Or dissolves if you allow it to. I mean, you can walk out of Ibogaine and still keep, you can almost reverse the effects if you don't allow it to do its thing.
You don't kind of let go.
Yeah, you have to let go and surrender to it, or else, you can fight your way through it. And so then after the first 18 hours, or it'd be close to a day and a half, you finally go to sleep, and you wake back up the next morning, and I looked in the mirror, and I was just like, whoa, like my whole face changed. There was just this load that was just taken off. And so all this, there was no anxiety about anything. There was no, I describe it as I felt like a snake that has been growing skin for 40 years, finally shed its skin. After 40 years, I finally shed my skin. It's just like this weight off your shoulders, and I didn't really know from what, because, and I'll get to that, on the second one, on Ibogaine 2, is where, because I didn't really put a lot of effort into, I didn't have a lot of intention.
Okay.
And that's the big thing about the psychedelics. You have to have intention, and you have to be very dialed in as to why you're doing this. Mm-hmm. Whereas I was just like, I just need help. I just need something. And so and something's all I got out of the first one, which is fine. And it was kind of preparation for the second one, but it definitely, I definitely felt the effects of like, wow, a load has been lifted off my shoulders, and life's pretty dang good. And I felt very, very good. And then that's grade A, and then it's 5-MeO DMT right after that. Yeah. And I'll touch briefly on that, or not briefly, but I need to touch on so my first trip down to Mexico, my Ibogaine was just okay. My 5-MeO was mind blowing.
The DMT.
The DMT. The second time it was opposite.
Right.
So, 5-MeO DMT is the poison of a Sonoran desert toad.
Yeah.
And again, it's synthesized. It's not. It's synthetic. It's not from the toad. Mm-hmm. But it's you smoke it. Well, you don't even smoke it. You inhale it. It's almost like an inhaler. Like an asthma inhaler. And my ego was still kind of around because I didn't know that I needed to get rid of it from the Ibogaine. So when they offer, they say you can do, your microdose, or you can just do the full thing. And I'm like, let's just do the full thing, right? Of course I had to.
Right.
And so I take my 5-MeO. I'm doing it outside. Now this psychedelic only lasts for about 15, 20 minutes max. So it's not like a long deal. But I lay down after I take it, and immediately my body starts shaking, like I'm getting very ataxic. And the first thing I can think of is like like when I shoot a deer, like right before it dies, it's like shaking, right? And that's exactly how I felt. Like I'm just like, I'm dying.
Short circuiting.
Yeah, and then I feel this like this hurricane, and there's kind of a visual with it. It was like a black tornado hurricane thing, like brewing in my gut, and it was just picking up like every emotion that you could possibly think of, like everything that from anger to hate to love to jealousy to grief, shame, everything that you could possibly think of is just brewing and it formed into like this black cannonball in my stomach, and then all of a sudden, like, it just starts coming up, and I felt like something grabbed my jaws and like split open my mouth, and I let out the most primal scream that is humanly possible. For like minutes I was screaming, just as loud as I mean, and this ball, I felt like it was coming up, and it was coming up and coming up and coming up, and my mouth had to like open like a pimple popping out almost, and this poof, finally it I felt it go out, and then as soon as that happened, I go into this white abyss, like this opulent, beautiful, there's no real color I can describe it as. It's infinite. Your body temperature changes, or you lose all senses. Like you lose the sense of where you're at. Like you're out of your body. Like your body's gone. Like you're just in this other realm.
And are you seeing like through your eyes?
No, you have a mask on.
But in your feeling, yours like as if I'm seeing through my eyes in this other realm.
Yes, or your third eye.
Okay.
More so in that. It's more. It's a more. Like you could close your eyes and open them under the shade, and it would still be there.
Right.
Right under the mask.
Yeah.
And but it was just like this. It was heaven. I mean, it was heaven. Like I felt. The white light that people talk about, like, and I'm just floating in there, and I'm in there, and there's you don't want to leave. Like I didn't want to leave. I saw my daughter Zoe first, and she's like, yeah, Dad, or she looked like this angel, and then, you know, just very porcelain looking skin, and then I saw Jackson, he's like cheering me on, like, go Dad, good job, and then I see Kelly, and they're just all happy, and they know that I'm gone, and I'm okay with being gone, and I'm okay that they're over, and I'm like, I love you guys, but I don't want to come back, like, I want to stay here, you know, and it's just like, very much what I would call dying is like, you know, I mean, it's not awful, it's beautiful, it's, and it was just like this experience of, there are not words to describe what it was, and then you kind of come out of it, and you're kind of like bummed. You're like, shit, man, I got to come back to the real world. I mean, you kind of like come out of it, and then, you know, then I took my shades off, and we were outside, and at this particular house had a view of the ocean, and I just sat in the lawn chair there, and I just stared at nothing for an hour. I mean, like nothing. I didn't. I just stared straight, and because of what just happened, like like so many things are coming to your mind as to like your whole like religion starts to be questioned now. I mean, like what you're being taught, and like, you know, what death is, and, you know, and just all these questions are coming to you, and you don't really want the answers, but you kind of just saw things you weren't supposed to see, and it's very much a very, very exhilarating experience. Ibogaine is awful. 5-MeO is awesome. It is to the point where when I got home for the next 3 months, I was a little woo-woo. Like, I was a little earthy.
Yeah, what do you mean? Talk to me about that. So you've been down there, you've done the treatment for the first time.
Yeah.
How is it now coming back to Iowa? And
it was, I mean, I felt like I'd seen things I wasn't supposed to see. You know, the 5-MeO was so powerful for me, and I took the Ibogaine so minimally the first time, that the 5-MeO was just kind of like the biggest, that had the most carryover effect for my time back here in Iowa. Right. Like, I mean, I kind of would revert back to that as I remembered it. And it, yeah, I was just very kind of like, yeah, woo-woo. I mean, this is the best way I mean, yeah, I felt like I was very spiritual. I felt very, you know, you kind of have a different take on life. You don't really, you know, time isn't really an issue, because you almost feel like you know that this is where you're going, and it's just another, being in this human body is just one step. Like you're kind of immortal. Like, you're not gonna die. Your body's just gonna perish. Yeah. But you just keep going on to the next level in a different realm. And that's kind of far out there, and, you know, but what happened was, and as I look back on it, the Ibogaine did do what it was supposed to do, and that was to very much, you know, kind of have an identity collapse, and I didn't feel very good there about 3 months after. I kind of was like, man, I'm kind of like insecure, and I'm kind of like something's wrong, like, you know, and I didn't feel like I was who I was supposed to be, like but it did its job, right? Yeah, it did its job. I was just blank canvas again. Yeah, and that was very scary. Yeah. And I didn't know what to expect. And I'm like, something's wrong. And so I got right back into smoking weed again, and doing ketamine, mostly just to kind of like, because I felt something was wrong, and I wanted to get back to this psychedelic state that I just experienced because it was so powerful. And I was like, I just wanted to go back there so bad. And so, and I never really, and I started to build this identity, or I didn't build it. I never really let go of the identity of being this war hero, this PJ, this, this guy who, is super strong and, does all these things. And I was still very much wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And then about 4 months later, I was like, okay, I need to go back. I need to go back.
Yeah.
So I scheduled to go back, and I was going to go back in April, so it would have been a year between the two, but they fast forwarded it to January, so there was like 9 months between the two. So it's January of 26 when I went down the second time. So, but this time I did have the wherewithal, meaning like I knew what the medicine was, I knew what it was going to do, I knew that it does work when intent is put behind it, and so I set myself up for success the second time around. I very much dove into. I did a lot of pre-work on what really needed to happen in my life, and I wanted the medicine to help me with that. And then I also set myself up with Ross, who knew nothing about psychedelics at all, but he'd worked with athletes, and other folks that would probably have a big ego, and so I felt very comfortable with working with him in that, okay, I'm going to go down, we need to set up what my intentions are, but when I get back, that's when the work begins, because I remember on the first time they said, integration. Integration means when you get home, you got to integrate what you learned
Right.
while you're on your journey. And I didn't do that. And I knew that the actual journey itself is a very small portion of it. The integration is the bulk of it. And that's what I'm currently still doing. But I had him in place to kind of be my coach, and we were going to walk through, step by step what needed to be done. And so prior to going down there, him and I came up with what it was what my intentions were going to be, what I was going to throw into the fire.
Yeah.
And I think I have them.
Yeah.
If you have a minute here. So my and the burn list is very it's a ambio they try to keep with the African ceremony tradition, and the burn list is like what you're thrown into the fire is what this medicine wants to do for you, right? And so my burn list was I wanted to rid myself of the following ideas, habits, and actions. Number one is Mike the PJ must die to allow Mike the man to be born. So this image of me being this war hero and this badass and this man of character, comic book features needed to die. Like that's unsustainable. It's not the truth even anymore. It's just it was a part of me, and all I was doing is I was feeding off people's adoration of that. That validation, that verification that you're somebody in this world, and I was just feeding on that, and that wasn't serving me anymore. My compulsive dependency on unnatural substances, so marijuana, alcohol, nicotine, pills, whether it's Adderall or Vicodin, whatever, anything that was unnatural needed to stop. Even to the point of caffeine, Diet Pepsi, I wanted everything gone. And still, coffee is the only thing I really drink now. I wanted to rid myself any parts of my psyche that are fake, not real, embellished, or fictitious. So, I noticed, like, and I think that a lot of us as men, especially, we perform for other people, but we really perform for ourselves. Like, we really kind of embellish who we really are to ourselves, I think, to make ourselves feel good, right? And I didn't want that. I wanted to be. I just wanted anything that was just untrue in this world to be gone, right? Any part of my psyche that prevents me from being brutally honest with myself, and prevents me from being authentic. So, and that kind of dovetails off the one I just read. But the little white lies, like, oh yeah, honey, the reason I bought these shoes was because X, Y, and Z. I needed it. Don't lie. Just just cut it out. I mean, it's extra effort, energy that you're wasting. When in reality, I think everybody just wants the truth about everything.
Yeah.
And you got to start with yourself. And I just wanted to feel what authenticity was, and because I built this thing, this image, this identity, this person that I was. And it's kind of like, and I think I mentioned this to you, when a sculptor looks at a rock, they see the sculpture in the rock. They just got to remove the pieces.
Yeah.
Right? They don't add the pieces to the sculpture. They remove it. So I wanted everything to be removed that was fake and not real. And in fear of being not enough dies tonight. So, like, fear of... that was the football thing. I wasn't enough. I wasn't the Division I football player that I thought I was going to be. And so then I went off and did this crazy pararescue thing. And, looking back on it, that probably was my motivating thing. Like, I didn't grow up saying I want to be a special ops guy or I want to be a military guy. It was more of like I had a chip on my shoulder to prove to the world that I was enough. And I chose this. And it was... that's a tough, ruck to carry, when you get down to brass tacks.
Many men through my program, that's a lot of it boils down to that. So we just want to know that I'm enough.
Yeah.
Just want to know that I've done enough, and not even what you've done. It's like just me as I am. Like, I'm enough.
Yeah, and to those men that are in your program and any other. When you rid yourself of that, it's the most freeing feeling ever. I'm telling you, like it. When I came out of it, we'll get into it, but it was very freeing. To being not enough doesn't even cross my mind anymore. It just doesn't. Yeah. So, all right, we're ready for the visions.
Let's go. Ibogaine round 2, right?
Ibogaine round 2.
Yeah.
Do you need to go to the bathroom? You good?
No, I'm good. Man. Let's go. Hanging off every word.
I gotta bring my cheat sheet here. So the visions. They So the first vision was very similar to the movie. Everybody sees this vision. If this is one of the most common visions, it's a version of this is where it's either a film strip or it's photographs or Polaroids or something of your life. And mine was it was the corner of a wall, black ceiling, and it looked like a detective, that's solving a crime scene that just has pictures everywhere on the ceiling, just everywhere. There's just pictures, and they were thumbtacked to the wall. And
in my vision,
I'm fast forwarding. Everything was the same. Burnless pills.
Yeah.
Boom. I see these pictures, and I walk over to one and I pull one off, and I look at it, and I recognize it exactly. I'm like, I know. And again, when you're in Ibogaine, you still are very aware of things, but you're just like in a different world. So I'm like, well, that's in a photo album at my house. That's in my mom's photo album. I know exactly. I mean, that's Potato Lake in Minnesota when I was 8 years old fishing off the dock. I know that picture, right? And I'd look at another one, and then I would puke. And once you do that, your vision leaves, right? And then I'd kind of regain, and the wall would come back, and I'd grab it, and I'd start looking at it, and then I'd throw up or I'd purge, and I was getting mad. And let me back up. Like they teach you can have a dialogue with the medicine, like, and so I did this time. Like the first time I had no idea what that meant. This time I was like, okay, I'm gonna ask it. If I want to ask it something, I'm gonna ask it. And so this was my first opportunity to do that. I look at this picture and I throw up, and I'm like, why are you doing that? Why won't you let me see these pictures? I want to sit here and look at these things. And so I asked the medicine why, and it basically said, because these pictures are at home in your mom's photo album. Just go home. When you get done from Mexico, go home and see them. We got work to do. We got other stuff. Your burn list, we got stuff to do. So, so it was very much I think that vision was kind of like the medicine saying, I'm for real. I can really show you stuff. And you had a dialogue with me, and I gave you a direct answer. So you ready for vision 2? Strap in, because it's going to be a long haul. Mm-hmm. And I purged again the whole night, but I did have visions in between the purging. So that was the first one, and it really kind of related. The reflection back on that was more of the connection with my mom. Like, it was this mother-son. Like, you need to reestablish that when you get home. Not that anything was wrong. It's just, it reminded me that I needed to reestablish that. So I did when I got home. Then there was a solid black wall that was a brick wall that kind of was emerging from this lava lake. It was very scary at first. It was kind of like smothering me. Like, I thought this wall was going to push me into this lava lake and it was going to burn me. But it wasn't. And as I get it, I'm trying to push on it. And I can just feel how strong it is. And the tuck points, where it is a joint is just so solid. And it kind of emerged from this fire. And I asked the medicine, like, what is this? And it's like, the medicine said, this is your foundation. So once you get done with this, like, I'm giving you the foundation. You can build whatever castle you want on top of it, but we're stripping you down to the bare bones. This is the beneath the ground foundation of this new life that you're going to build for yourself. And it's indestructible because it's real and it's authentic, and there's nothing fake about it. If you want to put fake stuff on top, it's not going to hold. But right now, we're starting you out at ground zero, and it's like, so it was very much a kind of a symbolism of, the medicine showed me, hey, I'm real with the first one. Then the second vision is kind of like, this is what you're going to get out of it. You're going to have a foundation when you go home. Take the integration very seriously. Do all the work that needs to be done on the back end once you get out of this journey. And so then I throw up again, probably a couple, 3 more times. It was just nonstop the whole night. But then the next one was these hieroglyphs, these Egyptian hieroglyphs that I saw it was like a cave painting, and they were on the wall, and they were very, very clear. Like, I to the point where when I got home, I Googled Egyptian hieroglyphs, and I swear to you, Matt, they were the exact ones. And I haven't studied them. I haven't been to Egypt. I had nothing to do with Egypt. But it's just like, I saw these things, and then all of a sudden I see them on the computer. I'm like, something's weird there. right? Like this medicine, like I feel like it taps into this lineage of our ancestors that goes so far back, that's just kind of embedded into our DNA that you can't access otherwise, right? And it was cool, and I was kind of like, okay, that's cool, some hieroglyphs. And then so I asked the medicine, what is this? What are you showing me? And the medicine says, it basically kind of does this out zoom of, time, a timeline of, kind of like fast forward, cave dwellers to modern society. And I'm just kind of like thumbing around with it, and finally it hit me, like what it was is like, if I were to take a snapshot of Mike Brown's life right now, 80, 90 years, however I'm going to live, and I put it on the timeline of humanity, or even the timeline of the universe, which is really mind-blowing, but just the timeline of humanity, like, it is so small. Like, it is so small. It's not even visible. And that just puts into perspective, like, if that's the case, then politics, my mortgage, taxes, road rage, I mean, none of this matters. My kids' travel baseball team, like, none of it, it's so, it puts a perspective on how much we get absorbed with our world right now, and how finite or how minuscule it really is in the grand scheme of things, and how small we really are, in comparison. And that if we're this small, does it all really matter? And it really makes you kind of dive into that and sit with that for a while. Then the next vision that I had was, it was about my dog. So I have a service dog, and that was kind of threw a curveball that we didn't touch on. But right after COVID, I got Jackpot, my service dog. The kids wanted a dog, and so I looked into getting a service dog, and I qualified for it. But I felt like, man, I have this dog. I need to at least pretend or act like or be disabled, because I was given this gift, and so I need to take this dog everywhere with me, and I did. And she helps, and she's helped phenomenally since Ibogaine in a different way. But prior to Ibogaine, she was helpful, but it was sometimes she'd almost add some anxiety to me, because it's like having a kid. You got to carry dog treats, you got to carry a leash, you got to carry all this stuff, and other people want to pet her and all this, and it was almost kind of bringing me down a little bit. And it was like a wheelchair. Like, I felt like when I had my dog, like, people looked at me like I was disabled.
Yeah.
Right? And the vision was like, I'm not disabled. Like, I've seen a lot of terrible things, and I've had a lot of trauma, but I'm not willing to commit myself to being labeled as disabled. I just don't want that. Yeah. And
it's not true.
It's not true. And exactly. I just wanted truth. And it's showing me, like, you're not disabled. You just need a dog that you can talk to. And it's just a well-trained dog. And that's what she turned out. And so when I got home, from Mexico, I had this little ceremony. I retired her from being a service dog, and now she still goes with me everywhere, goes to work with me, but I just don't feel like I have to take her into restaurants, and I don't need to have her everywhere, and
she can just be a dog.
She can just be a dog. And ironically, because of that, what during my integration with, since I've gotten done with Ibogaine 2, she's taught me more about life by just being a dog, and we can get into it, but it's amazing what animals can do for humans, because it puts a different perspective on it. Like you look at her and does she have an identity? Is she worried about what other dogs think of her? Is she worried about, I mean, she's just happy. You know? And so things like that. And you know, like the whole, like, she's still a dog. Like, she's still got 1.5 inch teeth that can sink into my calf and it would probably bite my, but she's she's not denying that she's
not pretending not to be a dog.
Not to be a
not
dog.
To have these teeth.
Yeah.
Not to have these instincts.
Because, and that's, to me, that's what, going back to, you know, what a great man is like, all of us possess the capability to cause harm.
Yeah.
But just choose not to. But don't deny that you don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be so naive that you think that you don't possess it. It's better to, it's kind of like, you know, you don't want to, if you have the gall to pretend that you have no monsters in your life, that's like a wolf without fangs, right? Or you could be a king that just has a dragon on a leash. You know?
Jordan Peterson says about you need to become a dangerous man and then choosing peace.
Exactly.
That's what makes a great man.
Exactly.
Very similar to what I like with you.
Yeah. And in just seeing her in her normal state kind of re-emphasizes that as you learn about it. You're like, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And then then the next vision, Nick, he was my idol, my mentor. He was a PJ when I got to my teams that I identified with. He kind of took me under his wing. We were deployed together. We were in the war together. We partied together. We trained together. He was the guy, like the guy that every operator, I mean, you could write a book about this guy. I mean, he was it. Just smooth and kind of rebellious, but smart and just a good operator. And I wanted to be him. And the vision with him was, where I'm holding on to his hand at the edge of a cliff, and he's holding on to me, and he's just like up there smiling at me like he always does, and just being like, dude, just let me go. And I didn't want to let him go. And finally he just like kind of pushes himself away from my hand, and then I let him go. And I kind of got like terrified in that whole moment, like while I was in the medicine, like I was kind of like a bad dream, you know, nightmare kind of feelings. And after, you know, he falls and he didn't, you know, he goes away. I asked the medicine, what was that all about, man? Like, why do you make me let him go? Like, because he died back in 2015, I think. But I'd still like kind of talk to him, and you know, I'd be like, what would Nick do in this situation? You know, that's who I. And the medicine was just like, you can't idle anybody. Because when you do, you get all of them. And he wasn't a perfect guy, and he had a lot of attributes that were not the best. And to me, by me idling him, I was able to imitate some of his good qualities, but I inherently, unconsciously absorbed all of his bad qualities. Mm-hmm. And that carried over into my marriage and into my life. And it was kind of like just this revelation of you could learn from other people, but idolizing somebody and wanting to be that person is a recipe for disaster, because you're going to get the bad unconsciously. And I think that kind of ties into Christianity. You know, in theory, Jesus was perfect, so let's idolize him, which makes sense, right? I mean, but short of that, you know, a coach, a dad, you know, I mean, to me, like, I'll tell my son to not idolize me. Like, I don't want you to idolize me, because I want you to learn from me, or, you know, observe things about me and other men and coaches and observe their traits. But you can't idolize them, and you can't depend on them, because when you do, you get all of them.
Yeah, it feels like when you start to idolize, you're trying to reject that, the bad.
Yeah.
You know, then you're not seeing the full true picture to align with what you've been saying the whole time. It's like, no, I don't want to see that part. I just want to be this guy.
Yeah.
And it's like sounds like the medicine saying, no, buddy, you have to take all of it.
Yeah.
So we don't do that.
No. Well, yeah, and it's yeah. Yeah, it's a good. Yeah, actually. And so yeah, it was coming out of the medicine this second time. So that was the last vision. I saw a bunch of I saw all these things, and again, grade A, where I laid in bed for the next 12 hours. You kind of reflect on all this, but then I just knew like something had shifted in me this time around. Like all the armor was taken off, all the masks were crushed, the identity was gone, the scaffolding was taken off the building. Like I was just this new, raw, just completely raw person now, where I was very excited, scared, and that's what's beautiful about it, is all of a sudden all these emotions are real. Before you kind of hit them, or you dulled them with other things and your own ego and this, but all of a sudden, like, you're so present in who you are and what you are, and you feel everything. Like, you feel everything now, like the way a human should feel everything, in my opinion. And that's what, once you break away all this stuff and you chisel it down to the authentic self, and there's no mask, there's no identity, no persona, no nothing to protect you, you're very raw, but it feels very good. It's scary, but it's like, I wish everybody could feel this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so then, to kind of speed things up here, I go right into grade A or whatever, and then I go into 5-MeO, and this time we were inside, but they said, do you want to take the little bit first? And I was like, yeah, I don't want to do the full shebang right away. I'll do one and then the second one. And so I did my first dose, and I kind of started shaking again. I was like, oh shit, here it comes again. Like, I was a little bit scared, because what I saw the first time was so powerful. It's almost scary to do it again, right? Yeah. So I started shaking, but then it's just kind of like this warm, sunset-y kind of colors floating on in the sky kind of feeling. And then I just see this band of Kelly's eyes, like just this much, of Kelly's eyes. And it was just very anchoring. Like, it was like, it's kind of like I'm just, and as soon as I locked eyes, and just like, whew, like grounded, anchored, and that went on for like 5 minutes, 7 minutes, and it was just like, wow, this is amazing. And so then I kind of come out of it, and the guy's like, you ready for round 2? And I'm just like, no. And so, what was crazy is, like, I get myself up and I go down to the bathroom and kind of wash my face and look in the mirror, and it's like, something's different. And it was hard for me to kind of wrap my head around what it was. And then it hit me. It was like, I just have the opportunity to, you know, have another like amazing experience that nobody else could do. You know, not very many people do. It would be a great story to tell everybody. It was a drug. It was a high. I'd already paid for it. I'm in Mexico. There's doctors watching me. It's the most perfect time for me to partake in something, you know, of this nature. And I said no. For, you know, like, for the first time in my life, like I was content with where I was at. Like I didn't need that next level, and that's what was so powerful about that. It was just like, yeah, the power to say no, and that I you know, I turned down this ultimate high. You know, I'm a guy. It's like, you want to jump out of a plane? Sure, let's go do it, right? You know, it's the same thing. You know, you ready for round two? You know, it's gonna be awesome. You ready to do this? And I'm just like, no. So for the first time, I was able to say no. And that's stuck with me for to this day. You know, it's just, and to me that what that was the Ibogaine did its work. That's what I asked for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I was tested on, you know, 24 hours later. My first test comes,
Yeah.
and I pass it.
Is it enough?
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's, you know, yeah. So that was Mexico number two. I come back and completely different. Like, we out of time.
No, you.
Um,
Got like 10 minutes.
yeah, I come back and I'm just, there's no pink cloud, or I'm not like riding the waves of kind of woo woo. I was dialed in, laser focused. Just, I have never felt better. I I mean, I still am just, I'm very much taking this integration thing very seriously. I still, you know, journal every day. You know, I meditate, but it's more because there's a lot of work that, you know, that on the back end, you know, that obviously those were very powerful revelations that happened to me during that second Ibogaine too. But you know, the integration piece on this back end has been so rewarding to the point where it's been better than the actual experience.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Just piecing back how you can step into and how you show up in the real world, or in this realm even, to say it better.
Yeah, it's well, it's just yeah, at first I thought integration was like, I thought it was like, oh, you got to integrate back into the real world, meaning you'd come from a different world. And it's very easy to think that that's the case. Like, you've just done these very, very powerful psychedelics, and you've seen these things that, you know, are very profound. And so now you got to integrate back into society, like as if you just like are an alien.
Mm.
But that's not what integration is. To me, the integration is you are integrating the profound laws that were basically revealed to you about humanity into your own makeup, like into my own psyche. So like you know, like we were talking about, like when you go through the Ibogaine, it forces you to walk through every dark corner of your soul. There's no escaping anything that you've done. You eventually have to deal with it, and that's those. And I fast forward through a lot of it. When you're just laying in bed the next day, that's when all of that happens. You're like, everything you've ever done, you're dealing with it, right? So, but, and again, you are forced to see your own monsters. And one of two things can happen. You can try to kill the monster, or you could try to shove it in a box, or you could try to lock it in the basement, or whatever you want to call it. You can try to deny that it's there. Mm-hmm. Or you can look in the eye and invite it to dinner. And just ask it to have table manners. And they do. And that's what the integration is. You're integrating your whole self. You're not presenting to the world just the best analogy I can think of, political ads?
Yeah.
How you got a guy walking through a manufacturing plant and he's shaking hands, and then he's, at the county fair, and then he's, talking to a farmer. It's just like this. Kissing a baby, and you're just like shaking your head because none of that is, everybody knows none of that is true, but that's what's being presented. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that's not a good man, right? A good man is somebody that presents the whole self, and that's what this medicine forces you to do. Is it forces you to accept there are demons inside all of us, or monsters, or whatever you want to call them. You can own them, you can embrace them, and keep them on a leash, or you can try to deny they exist. And that's like holding the beach ball underwater forever, and finally it's just going to pop. And nobody wants that, because that's when bad things happen. So the medicine, the integration is integrating your whole, the scaffolding's gone, the masks are gone, you have this new person. You've got to understand from day one that you're not perfect. You're not, you're a whole person, and you just have to own it.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that you keep coming back to just what's true. Just want to show me what's true.
Yeah.
I think that's where we try and keep up the facade, right? And like you said, with the beach ball, or we only want to we only see this version of it, like with a partner. Oh, we only see that version of them, who they could be, rather than accepting the whole version of them. It's kind of like the idol thing.
Yeah.
And it's the more you can accept that truth and know that it's there for everyone.
Yeah. See that little piece of wood behind you? But hand me that thing. So I gave this to Ross. And this piece was actually down in Mexico with me. This was on my little altar. Mm-hmm. And I have two of them, so I gave him one. But then I was wondering why they give this to me. Oh, is it grounding or earth? But like just what you're saying, like say Matt, you're like, Mike, can you hand me a piece of firewood? And I'm like, before I give it to you, I'm going to like, what does he want? I'm going to sand it all down. I'm going to polish, because he might get a splinter. Oh man, I'm going to sand it down and make sure it's even. It's not weird shaped, and I don't want that little thing sticking out. And man, I need to get this degree. I need to lift this much weights. I need to be this kind of dad. I need to go to church every day. I need to do all this stuff. And then I hand it to you, and it's all this. It's like a dowel rod, basically. But there's no way you can get mad at me, because it's perfectly smooth. It's perfectly round. There's no splinters. There's no nothing. Or I can just give you a piece of firewood like you asked for. And it's up to you to determine if you like it or not. Not up to me. If it gives you a splinter, that's your fault, not mine. If I offend you, that's not on me, right? If it's not shaped correctly to your liking, that's on you, not me. And I think that kind of represents exactly what this authenticity thing men are losing these days is like we work so hard to sand this thing down to be the perfect everything, on our everything we put on Facebook or everything we put out to the world, we project because we're afraid of how we're going to be accepted in another's eyes when we don't even know what they're just asking. Everybody just wants the real thing. They just want the real thing. And yeah, and so that's what I gave that to Ross. And I think he uses it with his customers, but yeah, that's kind of one of the big lessons I learned from it.
And then you realize everyone's trying to file down their piece of wood, and it's like,
what, and all that energy that all that you could be spending on other things, and it's just, yeah, it's not worth it. It's, well, and that goes back to like the dog. Like, does she sit back and is she worried about the way she presents herself to me? No, she just is there. She's just a dog, or a horse, or that's why I think animals are very therapeutic. It's just we often get caught up in how we present ourselves to the world instead of just being in the world.
You made a couple quotes, Mike. What are your words to live by now? Is there any new ones since you've been through the Ibogaine DMT treatment?
Wisdom comes in three ways. You can, you can imitate it, which is read it. That's the easiest. You can reflect on it and gain wisdom. That's the noblest. Or you can experience. And that's the most brutal. And I think people who have the spine and not even the spine, who have the determination or to be on the good path, you're going to have to do some things that are not comfortable. You're going to have to do some self-examination, an inventory of what's going on the inside. And that is a very, very brutal thing to do. From it, they say, a lot of people, when you lose a loved one or you get a near-death car accident or something like that, a lot of this happens, right? Psychedelics happen to do it. Years and years on the therapy couch could do it. But nonetheless, when you do this personal inventory of kind of walking through the dark depths of your soul, you're going to gain knowledge and wisdom because you experienced it, not because you read about it in a book and not because you thought about it. And so to me, I think, that would probably be one of my quotes that I live by. You can gain knowledge from imitation, reflection, or experience.
It reminds me of the saying that action is the antidote to anxiety. You have to do. You can't just keep reading about how to solve this. You can't just keep watching it. You can't keep talking about it. You're going to have to go and, like you said, walk through the depths of the soul.
Yeah.
Got everyone thinking about where they need to go and walk through now.
Yeah. That's the challenging part. It took me 45 years to figure out where I needed to go. And some people don't, I suppose. I mean, it's a choice.
Until you go through it, and then it's not a choice anymore.
Then it's not. Well, then yeah, you feel, because of the way I feel, having been on the other side where I've, basically lived a fake life, or I was inauthentic and kind of wore masks and stuff like that, and had this armor on, and had a very, very big ego, a very big personality. I was manipulative. When you've lived that and you know it, and then now you see what true authenticity is, the contrast is so amazing. You're like, I want everybody to feel what I feel. But that's, not everybody's going to do that, but it's
Mike, I can't thank you enough, mate.
Yeah.
For taking the time to meet for the coffee last week, sharing your life, mate, and your experience on such a deep level. And I know that this is going to get to the right ears, and the right people are going to hear it, and it's going to change things for them. I know I didn't get to meet PJ Mike, but Mike Brown has been an absolute gift, mate, and I've only known you a short while, but I do hope to know you for a long time. Thank you so much, mate.
You're welcome.